Welcome to my pet project. This is Lauren Brinkman. In October or November of 2025, my husband and I talked about how it would be really neat to go visit some of the shelters that we pull animals from into Underdog. And when I was in charge of our intakes, I would mostly just be working with Wisconsin shelters. And I love doing that, but it got to the point where it felt like we were, I don't want to say fighting because it wasn't fighting, but we were trying to get in right away to take the really adoptable animals out of Wisconsin shelters that we had partnered with. So we tapped into some of the knowledge and resources that our volunteers had that had worked with other shelters in Wisconsin that pulled up animals from southern shelters. And we started to develop some relationships to try to take in animals who were family friendly, that we thought would be good with kids and other dogs and ideally cats, and bring them up to our foster system here in Madison, Wisconsin. So over the years, we've communicated mostly through my volunteers with the shelters, but via email. A lot of us are friends on Facebook just from it's nice to see friendly faces of people who are doing the good work for these animals to get them out of the shelters. But we decided it would be really impactful to learn how to use a camera, learn how to record conversations, and go and meet some of these people who are doing arguably some of the hardest work there is to do. We get to be on the receiving side of things where we're taking in animals who are somewhat vetted. I mean, they're not fully vetted in terms of all the care they get when we adopt them out, but they are vetted in terms of seeing what they're like in comparison to the next animal in the kennel. Trying to get the creme de la creme so that the animals who are the most adoptable are saved, so that when there are really hard decisions that need to be made, when space runs out and the resources just aren't there to safely keep these animals in the shelters, that the ones who have the best chance are out into safe foster homes. So we went on quite the adventure visiting Alabama and visiting Tennessee with some of our source shelters, and it was very inspiring to see the work that these people were doing. This has really turned into a passion project of ours, and I'm really excited to go through our on the road portion of my pet project to show you what shelters are like. And now we're going to work on this continuously to get to know other shelters and organizations doing good work to improve access to care and to find animals homes that need them, and to keep animals in homes where they are loved but just need a little bit of help. So I'm hoping that as we get to know these organizations that are helping and organizations that need help, that we can develop more ideas to come up with solutions. So I'm excited that you're here with us to watch, and I think if you watch a number of episodes, you're going to get to see some of the wonderful work that people in our community and in the South with the shelters we work with are doing to make the world a better place. Welcome to my pet project. My name is Lauren Brinkman, and this is our first episode. I am really excited to have my husband, Kyle Brinkman, here with me. I've been dragging him along on my adventures, and he's here to kind of help me lay the base of what we're doing here.
Yeah, glad to be here. So I guess we're just doing this to kind of do an introduction to what we're trying to accomplish with my pet project.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Underdog Pet Rescue and Vet Services is here in Madison, Wisconsin. And I started Underdog in 2012 out of my basement, about 5 minutes from our clinic now. And my goal was to just take animals from high volume shelters and to get them into a foster home and then get them ready for adoption. A few months into it, I realized how expensive it was to have veterinarians take care of the animals that we took in. And it got to be a question of, oh gosh, is this urgent enough to be seen by a doctor? Is it worth the $50 to walk in the door? And so soon after, I started partnering with vets to get care for these animals. And we eventually in 2017 opened up doors to a clinic that is about 10 miles from here, that 10 minutes from here, I guess, that was able to help people who had pets that they couldn't afford care at other clinics. Um, so that's Underdog. We're a nonprofit. Right now we have 4 vets on staff. We have about 200 foster homes. We work with shelters here in Madison. We work with shelters throughout the state, but we work mostly with shelters in the southern U.S. So we're talking Tennessee, Alabama, Oklahoma, Georgia, Kentucky, at times. So we just kind of work with these shelters to try to figure out how we can make the biggest impact in the rural communities that we like to serve down there. Bring them up to Madison, and we find homes for the animals pretty quickly. Something that I think kind of really came along with us starting this podcast was a trip that we made down south, and Kyle was along for the ride.
Yeah, that was quite life-changing as far as you can hear about it. You know, people can tell you, you could have an idea or concept of what it is, but being boots on the ground and actually seeing how these animals live and are treated, their conditions, the socioeconomic status. There's just a lot that's behind it. And I think, at least for me in that trip, it emphasized that we just want to give as many animals a chance. I mean, for me, it was ground shaking as far as how much of an impact we still need to do. And I don't know if it was the same for you, but
Well, I feel like when I was personally involved in figuring out which animals we pulled out of the shelters that we work with, and we do that as a base to get them out of the overflowing shelters where they face euthanasia when space runs out. So it turns out that the Midwest is a pretty great place to be a homeless pet, because most of our shelters, most of the year, are not euthanizing when space runs out. That's not always the case, but in Wisconsin, in in the East United States, like it's a pretty good place to be a homeless pet. But when we went down south, we have developed relationships that were essentially virtual, over the phone, over email, with people who are movers and shakers down in, where we visited were Alabama and Tennessee. And you get to know the people that you're working with, but it's just, we realize it's not anything near the same as being person to person and going and seeing what they're dealing with.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that are really doing fantastic jobs trying to do a similar mission to Underdog. I mean, working super hard, love the animals. It's just, it's a very different place than up here in the north. It's incredible how many animals really need our help.
Yeah. And I mean, over the years, the volunteers I've had who've been the bigger communicators with our source shelters, um, we've kind of learned that sometimes we know that animals have medical needs that we are bringing them up specifically for. Sometimes a dog shows up with a bum leg and nobody really knew that was the case. And then we do an x-ray, and we figure out there might be a old break in the bone, but there's also a bunch of buckshot. So, we've seen that time and time again. And we've been at the dog park and talked to people.
Right. And it's really odd because we'll go to the dog park and see other rescue dogs. And then you realize that maybe these were some of the same dogs in question that had a 10-pound chain around a 8-pound dog. I mean, there's such a difference between where we live and down south. And like when we went to the puppy bowl, we kind of got the idea that yes, they have problems as well in the East, but there's resources to be on a similar mission to give these animals a chance, and they also pull from southern shelters. I think the real message out of that trip is just how important the spay and neutering is. I mean, and that's the bottom line about all of this. And I think we're trying to do this to get more outreach and messaging to people that really don't understand how big of a deal that is, and how it's just this endless loop of feral dogs or cats just having babies over and over again, and not enough resources to take care of them all, so they struggle.
And I met you and I met, what, 7
7 years
ago?
ago, yeah.
And Underdog was already 5 or 6 at the time. And so you like animals. You had a cat, like you are a compassionate person, but I don't think you really knew what you were getting into.
I had no idea. I understood that you were very passionate about it, but it took me some years to really understand what it even was, and then the extent that people care, volunteer, and work hard to try to save these animals. Being immersed in it, it's a tireless job. I mean, you work nonstop at saving these animals and just trying to keep it going. And a lot of people are impacted. I mean, we have 2 kids, Audrey and Miles. They've been around rescue their whole lives.
Yeah, I think I started Underdog when Miles was 1 or 2. So it's interesting, their relationship with animals too.
Yeah, it's a little jaded, but they love animals, and but it's definitely different just on the sheer quantity of animals they've been around their whole lives.
Yeah. We at some points had been the place where you bring animals who had serious behavioral issues in other homes. I mean, even since I've been with you, we've had some of those dogs too who were just like, we're kind of the last chance stop for a dog.
It's the last depot on the track.
We're kind of, after our trip down south, I think we're pretty excited to be taking in animals directly from these shelters that we visited, because we just have this, we're using the same words that I use to describe the South before, where it's like, animals are treated differently down there than they are here. It's a different mindset. Some people see dogs and cats more like farm animals in a sense.
Property.
I mean, it's property
versus like beloved family member. And don't get me wrong, I am not generalizing on every owner. There's people that love their animals so much down there. But it's definitely a different mentality. Like, I think most of the people that I meet that foster fail, or their personal pets, they are a member of the family. Down there's animals running wild on the streets and packs, and it's endless.
And like, it just seemed like it was really useful to us to get to spend a little bit of time in we spent a good chunk of time in Calhoun County.
Yeah, I'm cementing those relationships with the people down there that care so much and put so much time in to try to save these animals. I think it was really valuable, because they can understand what we're going through, and we can understand what they're going through on a similar level, because it feels like the breadth of this whole pet rescue thing is so huge and so deep, and you're like, how can you keep up with it? And it's nice to know there are other people out there putting in as much work and trying to be on the same mission.
I think that we are on the easier side of things, and that's not something I would have thought I would ever said, because I think if you're in a job, any job that you're working 60, 70 hours a week, and you have a family and you have, maybe you try to keep in touch with your friends, like you you're so close to whatever you're working with for your job that you don't have time to necessarily do too much outside and to see the big picture of the work you're doing. And I think that when for 13 years I've been doing this, and just sometimes I feel like I'm chasing my tail because there's a lot of working pieces.
I think sometimes you are chasing your tail. There's so many pieces. It's like it's hard to, um, you know, get the day-to-day stuff done, like keep the power on in the building, and yet
Yeah.
still try to save as many of these animals as possible.
Yeah, like, everything from like making sure that we make payroll, that we are, giving great customer service to our clients, that I'm here for the fosters, there's an endless amount of things. I used to be getting calls in the middle of the night, my foster cat's sneezing. What do I do? And it's like, oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
But one of the big reasons I want to be doing this podcast and some of these additional pieces of it, like where we're going and visiting these shelters that we work with and getting to know even different organizations in our community that I realize I don't know a lot about, other rescues. Like I might have a conception, like a preconception of like what this organization is like, but unless you're actually talking to the people, you really don't have a great depth of understanding.
Right.
And so I think if we can start talking to one another, we can be better for our community here. And if we can put our heads together with the people who are working endlessly on like the sad end of things, where they are seeing these shelters fill up and they're euthanizing when space runs out, and they have no adopter pool down there. There's very few people who are able to adopt with the resources that they want them to have in order to take an animal home. Like it sucks for these people, but they
Yeah, how they weather the storm.
Yeah.
It's similar. I mean, because we see it on our end, like when animals need to be euthanized, or there's sad cases, or it takes a while for them to get adopted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all traumatic. It's all because we really care about these animals. So imagine that like tenfold, because there's so many more animals down south and so many like hard cases, and these people just keep plugging away. It's incredible.
And something Sam, who is in Tennessee, and she works as kind of a hub of 5 or 6 different shelters down there. And she works to get the animals on transport and up to us, and to an organization in New York, and a couple go to Canada every month. But she said when we talked to her that nobody told her she had to do this.
She's a force.
She's just amazing. But she does it, and she feels gratitude for being able to do what she loves. And I think that's kind of the magic. And I mean, to have purpose in your life is a huge gift.
Well, how do you feel about this? I mean, you work tirelessly. I mean, we're partners. I know how much time you stick into this. I mean, how do you feel, like, say, from when you were at the small place on Fair Oaks to this new building and all these new responsibilities, and the organization is growing? How do you feel about it?
I feel like really hopeful. I feel I have a hard time managing, because like I want to be home spending time on the couch with you and the kids at night, but I could be here 20 hours a day and I would be fulfilled, in the sense of knowing that the work I'm doing is like, I feel like we really have the ability to make a huge impact on not just the animals that we're taking in, but with our veterinary services that we have here in this nice new clinic that you built, and that a lot of people who are probably listening helped contribute to in some way, shape, or form. Like, the sky's kind of the limit. Like, we're figuring some things out, and I don't ever want to be the kind of person who's like, I've got all the answers. We figured it all out. Like,
We don't have all
and
the
I don't
answers.
think there's a way. Like, I would love to
We're
put
lucky if we have some of the answers.
Yeah.
As many answers as we can do at that point in time. That's great.
But I think that we're onto something. I feel like creating coalitions, talking to people, talking to our source shelters and the vets who are the magic in that area, like the few people who are doing spay and neuter down there. Talking to the guy who's running the shelter and taking care of 30 or 40 dogs on his own.
That is an incredible story. He's a shy guy. I wish we could get him. I mean, people would really love to hear about what he's done and how he's converted into one of these people that just cares endlessly about these animals.
Yeah.
And then with a bad set of cards being dealt to him.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of forging through and making some progress, but Sean messaged me today with our next foster dog. So
that's fantastic.
We got to get our two current
so
ones
he's so a little background, he's got an 11-year-old.
I think
daughter.
Jackie is 10.
Jackie's 10, and she has close relationships with some of the animals at the shelter her dad takes care of, and she picks them out and they get preferential treatment. They get to go home and ride in the truck, and
Get dressed up.
Yeah, they just love
Cowboy
these
hat.
animals. And we have some footage of Jackie, a little interview, which we'll share with everybody. But it's stuff like that makes you really realize that the people on the other end absolutely are working their butts off and love these animals.
Yeah, one dude taking care of all those animals, no help.
I think like 60 animals a day.
I was estimating 30 to 40, but it's a lot. It's more than is ideal, and I think his community is working with him a little bit to hopefully make that better soon. But just the resources are minimal. And what we found when we were touring some of these towns was that it's a case of the haves and the have-nots, and there's not much in between. People either there's some people who have many means, like they are doing very well. I would say it's probably old money.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like true middle class. Like here in Wisconsin, we're lucky. We have pretty good economic stability for the most part. It is entirely different in the communities we visited, and it reflects on the care for their animals. Like, make a choice. You either feed your family dinner, or you don't have enough money to feed the dog as well. I mean, what are you going to do? These are impossible choices.
Mm-hmm. And spay neuter is like not even on the top 100.
Not even on the radar. And like, we were talking about ways to try to fix that a little bit. And it's like, even if we had armies of people down there doing it, it feels like it might put a dent in how many animals could use our help.
I think it just needs to be a really strategic plan, to try to figure out how to address the issue. And I think it's bigger than just animal welfare, because we pulled up some stats on the communities that we toured, and many of them have at least 50% of the people who live in that town below the poverty line.
Yeah.
And I think, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that some of the services in town here in Madison, like, you qualify for certain things if you're even 200% of the poverty level. So like, these people are making very, very little money for their households, and it's not a super high rate of literacy in some of the alcoves that we searched, and there's like education is just not something that is necessarily a priority in every area, and it might be because people have to work younger. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know the reason why, but in one of the communities there used to be a army base where
a chemical depot.
And then when that closed down a number of years ago, there was a huge financial strain on the community. A lot of people
I mean,
lost
there
their
was a
jobs.
burgeoning middle class. They had, there'd be coffee shops and retail stores. And then 40 years later, you drive through downtown and there's trees growing out of buildings.
That was wild, like the broken storefronts with like just plants. It felt like The Last of
Yeah,
Us.
like around here, any property gets revitalized. And I know that as a contractor, especially in Madison, it's property's hard to come by and very desirable. The chances of a place being run down and dilapidated are next to zero here in Madison, Wisconsin. And in Anniston, Alabama, there's like 10% of the buildings downtown that are even occupied. Most of them are municipal, healthcare, some food service stuff. But other than that, it looks like it's a carpet bomb of devastation.
There are also like another issue that we kind of experienced, or not experienced, but we noted, was that in Calhoun, in Anniston, Alabama, there's a that's where the Freedom Riders
That's right.
rode.
Civil rights movement. It's a national park in Anniston there,
It's like
which,
less than a block, or maybe a block,
yeah,
a portion of
where
it.
there was some hate crimes with a Greyhound bus back in the 60s, the Freedom Riders.
It was amazing. It was closed, but there was a thing outside that you could listen to one of the guys who was on it. It was white and black men on this bus, and I don't know if it was the KKK or if it was
It
just
was the
very
KKK.
white supremacy.
Yeah.
Okay, and so it was terrifying. These guys were on the bus and they were shaking it, and they were trying
Yeah,
to
breaking the windows.
physically harm these men
yeah.
on the bus that were trying to work for civil rights. And then when I pulled up the stats on what was that little town that we drove through? Something City. Hobson
City, yeah.
So we actually kind of learned a little bit from stopping at a brewery and talking to some of the
Some of the
locals
locals,
who
yeah.
didn't even know that there was a shelter, an animal shelter in town, and this guy had lived most of his life there. And it's 98% black in Hobson City. And there's very few resources there for these people. And that, to me, shows that, I mean, there's still a huge disparity between with racism.
It's incredible. And also another thing I think that should be noted is this just didn't happen last week or a year ago. This is happening generation after generation after generation of poverty. And in Hobson City especially, that didn't seem like there was a lot of change or hope. Especially on the economic side, the literacy rates are through the roof.
Low.
Yeah, low.
The illiteracy, yeah.
And we were driving around and we saw like a pack of 20 dogs. One was pregnant, just laying around, moving around, just completely like it was
like this,
a third world country.
Dogs chained.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. It was. It didn't seem like how people promote America and prosperity, and it seemed like a different place.
And then, a few blocks down, we kind of accidentally ended up we were just trying to go near the shelter.
This Hobson City was within close proximity of the shelter that we had to go to, and we took the back way in, and then, just stumbled upon all this poverty and dogs, which is really what we went down there to see. Like, what's the state of the affair? Like, it's like...
When we pulled in to our hotel kind of late one night, the night before, we were like, why, what? Like,
what are we doing down here?
Kind of nice. It was like, a middle class, if not
kind
of fancy area in Oxford.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, there's going to be a lot more that we have to share with some footage that we took, and I hope that you can watch each of those episodes. We're going to dedicate one to each of the shelters that we visited, but the common factor was that we went down thinking we were going to meet the people of the community where they were, but what sometimes it felt like was we were meeting the people in the shelters where they were, because people had different approaches of how they helped animals. Some, euthanized when space ran out, and that was actually maybe one of the kindest things they could do for the animals, so they weren't
Because the
overwhelmed.
sheer volume of animals in general versus the amount of space and resources to take care of them, it's just the equation doesn't work.
And then another shelter took the approach of like taking no kill very literally, like no kill. I don't really like the words, but
They could use some rebranding for sure.
It sort of criminalizes the shelters that do need to
And
euthanize, because they're not walking around being like,
let's
it's kill
also be
day.
clear, those people down there care so much and work tirelessly to take care of these animals like they're their own, and take every resource and time like you do with Underdog. They're doing the same thing down there. Those people do the best they can with what they got.
And some people have been doing it for 20, 30 years, and some people stumbled into it because it was a job posting and they got the job. And some people are progressing in different ways in terms of how they approach the problems. But one thing, we noted is that there's not access to spay and neuter. A lot of places won't do pediatric spay and neuter either. In Wisconsin, we're finding, because I have this huge desire to help further at the source, like at these shelters. I would rather help the communities in a way that we can, if we could actually make an impact. Like you said, it might be a drop in the bucket, but if we could make an impact, I want to do that. But I think we need to make sure our community is solid first, and we're working on that with keeping on growing Underdog here. But there's veterinary deserts in our state. My friend Jamie with the ASPCA has worked hard with her team and with the shelters to figure out the state of, like, she has this map with these little dots, and the red dots are up in northern Wisconsin, and we're putting our mobile clinic efforts to trying to help that area to see if we can try to support the shelters there so that they have access to spay and neuter. Because I sat down with a lot of the shelter runners in the last couple of weeks, and they, like, their vets there won't often do pediatric spay and neuter, which is a thing that's progressed over the last, I don't know how many years. But our doctors will spay and neuter an 8-week-old animal that's 2 pounds as long as they're healthy, because then we know that animal is going to not reproduce and just have us literally chase our tail.
Yeah, the endless cycle. Sure.
Voucher programs have been pretty much proven not to be effective, whether it's because the shelters are spending more time following up with people to make sure it gets done, or people just are like, eh. I mean, that would be devastating if one of our animals got adopted and then had a litter, and it's like, what are we doing here?
Right.
And I think that must be what they feel like every day at some of these shelters, because they might be able to take in half the litter, but if the other litter is already in a home, like, they're just going to see those siblings or, grandchildren or whatever of these animals. So there, a lot of, like, an old school mentality is waiting until later for shelter animals to get fixed at an older age, but the benefits of doing it young.
Well, there's that old term, that
outweighed.
dog won't hunt, or all of these like old timey ways of thinking that are not science based.
Well, and I mean, there's it's sort of like the idea of property is my dog, I'm going to do what I want with it.
That would seem to be a common thread down south, as far as
with some people.
Absolutely, and like, I just want to be clear, like, this is not a blanket statement on any area. Every area is dynamic. They all have their own attributes. There are tons of people who care. There are tons of people that don't even know about what we're doing or that there's a problem.
Yeah.
And it's really not that important to them. And I really think it's changed my life in a way. It's opened my eyes to, the potential for actually doing something and giving these animals a chance.
Yeah. And I think that learning those details that only the people from the communities can teach us is going to be how we can kind of come together to make a bigger impact together.
Well, I mean, really, let's talk about it. Like, this is why we're doing
Exactly.
my pet project. It's really to provide awareness and access to, boots on the ground of what's going on, the struggles, the victories, all of it, just so people have a clear understanding of what this is. Because I know before I met you, I had no idea the amount of effort and need that is there that has to happen to save these animals.
And I think that we know a lot of people. I mean, I can't think of too many friends I have that um, aren't somehow related to the last however many years of running Underdog, of the last 14 years. Like, you meet really good people doing this work, and that's only amplified over time. I just went to Illinois to visit my best friend, and I met her because she found a beagle, and her brother found a beagle, and she needed to find a place for it. And it's like these being strangers, and then all of a sudden it's like we're a family working together. Like, I feel like Sam and Sean are family already, because it's like these
Yeah.
people we met just a month ago. Like, it's almost, sometimes it's trauma bonding.
Yeah, it's so similar, and it's the same types of up and downs that that you have in common, and the hard work and diligence and sadness, and it's
But it's that joint purpose that I
yeah,
think
purpose,
keeps
common
us getting
thread,
up and doing it
absolutely.
every day. And so I think it's great to be around people who are inspiring. And I think that it's really possible that somebody like you, who, if you hadn't met me, if somebody figures out a piece of the puzzle that they can help with.
Absolutely. I think part of I was pushing to go down south because we had a beloved dog, Duke, who was an 80-pound pit bull who was deaf. He was from down south, and then now we have Gilbert, who's
Calhoun alum.
he's from Calhoun, and we went down there. I was like, oh, I really want to see what's going on. I just wanted some backstory, and I think all like people who have rescued dogs want to know, like, they want like some sort of story of what happened, the trials and tribulations, because it's interesting. Because other than that, you just guess. But we went down to the source, and I was like, two of our beloved dogs came from here. Do you remember? They were Flynn and what was Gilbert's?
Chance.
Yeah, Chance. And they looked at me. They're just like, there's so many animals. There's no way. And I was like, these dogs are super special because, you love them. They're your dogs. Yeah.
But they also, every single animal who lived there, they knew everything about them. So I
Yeah.
think it's just like you got to almost swipe the slate clean. They still love those animals, but it's
At
just
Calhoun, the shelter manager knew every single name of
Amanda, right?
Amanda, of every dog in there. And how many dogs were there?
127, I think.
Incredible. And when we walked the grounds with her, they like the eye contact and their behavior, like they knew who she was too. Yeah, the animals did. It was incredible. Like, and just imagine what she's been through with doing this for what was it, 6 years or 10 years?
I think it was close to 10. But I mean, just these few relationships that we've made, and I know, like, we've got some visits. We're going up to northern Wisconsin in less than 2 weeks now to visit with Scott, who runs Taylor County, to meet with Teresa, who is in charge of Pets for Life with the Lac du Flambeau Tribal Nation. I'm just really excited to see and to kind of take you all along for the ride as we learn about the different struggles that people have, talk to really inspirational leaders who are taking charge of their communities in terms of the animals and the people. And I think I'm really excited to see what we can do, because I think we can all do something. But the thing that's really cool about animal welfare and what we're able to do every day is like, even if you can't change really terrible big things that are happening in the world, we can change something, even if we can't adopt our way out of the overpopulation that we're seeing in these southern
I
shelters.
think that's a
We
done
can.
deal. It's clear that we cannot adopt our way out of this. We can put a little dent in it, but I think the overall framework and people need to understand spay and neuter, spay and neuter, spay and neuter. That's the only way you're gonna even get close.
Yeah, and I think that meeting people where they're at.
Absolutely.
And I can't go into a community that I know nothing about and say, you all need to spay and neuter your pets.
Right.
Because nobody
Nobody
wants
wants
to
to be
be.
approached like that. No
But
way.
what I'm hoping is that if we partner up with a person, with Sean, at Manchester City Shelter, and he has the support of his organization, maybe people will trust him because he lives in the community. His family lives in the community. He's the one going and doing the dog catching, like when a dog is loose. Like, if we work with the people who are doing the work, then maybe we can find more ways to help. So I'm just really excited to do this. We like doing, like, we have fun anywhere, so like we enjoy going to like Oshkosh, Wisconsin for an afternoon, or like just doing like little trips. And I think that that really just cemented that we can have even more purpose to try to get to know some of the communities that we visit, that we're now, it's not just a concept of like, oh, this girl Sam who does a bunch of things down
Yeah,
south. Like,
I think, well,
now we
really,
know.
ultimately, this is just about outreach and sharing with people so they don't have to go and drive and check it out, and they can see with the footage and hear about it and just kind of go on this journey to understand that it is a lot of work, but we do it because it's awesome.
And we meet good people. And also, you'll hear from people who are helping locally, like our dog trainer, a lot of our volunteers who are doing work. I mean, I get paid for what I do as a director. It didn't happen immediately. It was a number of years in before I started to take a salary and we opened up the vet clinic. But um, a lot of the people that work every day with us are Sam's doing volunteer work to do the work she does in Tennessee. And so I think that it's just really inspiring that some people are giving their time, some people are getting paid for it, and they absolutely deserve it. But it's really neat to have a better understanding of how it all comes together, and to maybe figure out how there's probably a spot for any one of our listeners who wants to get more
Yeah,
involved, whether it's
and
adopting or
speaking of
fostering.
the listeners, I think it's important. We would like feedback and ideas of what people would like to see as well. I mean, we have this rescue-based journey happening, and we have a lot of plans, but we're probably missing a ton of stuff. And if anyone has any idea what they would like to see, we'll all take that into consideration. I mean, we're really just trying to build a community.
Yeah. So we're not doing our podcast live quite yet. We might at some point, but in the meantime, Lauren, LAUREN, at underdogpetrescue.org is the best way to send ideas, thoughts. We just want to keep on building our community, because I think we can do a lot more together than we can individually.
Yeah.
So we're excited to learn and to keep on getting to know our community, our neighboring states in the South, anywhere that the road takes us. We're excited to go check it out and keep on trying to figure out some answers on how we can be better.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for being on here. I know you really didn't want to be
That's
on this
correct.
side of this, but Kyle will be behind the camera for the most part. So
I'm emotional support.
thank you for listening. And this is Lauren Brinkman with My Pet Project.
Thank you.